Take a look at this. We have two tropical systems out here in the western Pacific today. To the left, we have Goni, and to the right, we have Atsani. Both of these are likely going to be becoming typhoons here in the next several days, and not only typhoons, but potentially very strong ones as they develop track off here towards the west and towards the northwest, impacting, well, not only Japan, Taiwan, and maybe parts of the northern Philippines. So in this update, we're going to be breaking down both of these storm systems because a lot to talk about out here. Monday the 16th of August 2015, and first starting with Goni, now actually pulling away from Guam and Saipan. It pushed overhead here on Saturday, actually at Andersen Air Force Base. That's along the northern extent of Guam. We saw winds reported here upwards of about 75 kilometers per hour, so it did bring some foul weather, and still we have some of these outer rain bands wrapping around, so some showers are going to continue to pass by. But good news, not even remotely close to the intensity we saw on Saipan with Sodalor. If you remember, that completely disrupted the infrastructure. Hundreds of buildings were damaged. Power actually still out in some locations from that storm system. But you can see here, good news, storm's moving away. Goni's going to continue to track west, southern extent of the Westpac High out here, and that's one of the big driving factors for this storm system. It's going to allow it to stay in an area of relatively warmer sea surface temperatures. Plus, the Westpac High aloft is providing some exhaust, especially along the northern periphery, and that's really indicating to us that we are going to be seeing some rapid intensification from Goni. Now, that is the storm system on the left here we're continuing to talk about. When I'm talking about the Westpac High, though, I'm talking about this area out here just north of that. You can see it here. It's basically encompassed by this 588 line, and inside of that, we just have this high pressure or high heights area aloft. That's what we're looking at here with a 500 millibar vorticity chart, and it's not going to be wanting to run through this. And that's the big key thing here. It's going to continue to track towards the west-northwest along the southern extent of it. Very little degrading staying north of that, so we're not going to expect a rapid recurvature towards the north, at least until the storm system starts to go along the western periphery of that high pressure area, which likely isn't going to be taking place until about mid to the latter part of this coming week. Atsani, I'll get to this in a second, but this one, it is going to linger here for an extended period of time until we do see a little bit of degrading in the Westpac High. And actually, let's scroll through all the way through here. Then it'll finally start to cut off here towards the north. The big thing is with this one, how much weakening are we going to see in that high pressure area? Because it either could allow it to track all the way off here towards Japan, or high pressure area over Japan will force it to turn towards the northeast. That's a long ways away, and it's really a lot of time to watch the dynamics of the atmosphere out here and see how that does develop. But if you are out here in Japan, definitely want to be watching Atsani fairly closely, at least if you're in the Ogasawara or Izu Islands. But back towards Goni, continuing the track here, westward path, actually maxing out its intensity around 120, gusting to 145 knots according to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Just shy of super typhoon intensity, but as we've seen with Sodalor, it really could get up that high. And this is actually in a very similar path, very similar atmospheric dynamics that we saw with Sodalor. It is going to be still looking at a lot of moisture inflow as it does track off here towards the west, and it's even a little bit farther towards the south, so sea surface temperatures are slightly warmer. So what we're going to be seeing is the potential for the storm system to undergo some rapid intensification, and I think by the 17th into the 18th, we really could have a very potent and potentially dangerous storm system on our hand. Now, good news, just like Sodalor, it is going to work its way back into an area that should cause some weakening by the 19th into the 20th, just south of Ishigaki, but it really depends on how it moves over the warm water current over here, the Kuroshian current included, and basically how it starts to interact with the atmosphere once it gets about 5 to 6 days out. Regardless of all of that, though, we're talking about Taiwan, the southern Japanese islands, and maybe northern portions of the Philippines, but I think up here is more likely to be impacted by this storm system. Let's take a look at some of the models. First, what we're looking at here is the ECMWF model. It just has the tracks from JTWC of Goni on the left, Atsani once again on the right. I keep on reiterating that because I don't want people to get confused about what storm we're talking about. Now, let's first take a look at Goni here, still tracking off there on that west-northwesterly direction, and basically the ECMWF has it coming on shore, likely in southern Taiwan, beyond the 5-day outlook. We're talking about Friday into Saturday. Now, GFS actually very similar here, and let's show you a side-by-side ensemble model comparison. The GFS on top. Now, this is all the little multiple runs inside one model run, and it just shows you which each one of these lines are taking the storm system. GFS kind of going west and veering towards the north, around it rounds that Westpac high just off here towards the north. ECMWF, very similar output, and that really gives us high confidence that Taiwan or around Ishigaki or the southern Japanese islands should be impacted by this storm pending any significant changes. Now, this is still an extended range, so like I said, pending any significant changes, but something, if you are out here, especially in Taiwan, the last thing you need is another storm system, but it does look like this very well can come out into your direction. Like I said, this is really not going to happen until next weekend, so we have a lot of time to really continue to watch this storm. Still looking at the recovery there in Saipan and Guam from Goni, how it impacted. Right now, Goni, by the way, still a severe tropical storm. As I mentioned, it is continuing to intensify. Also, Atsani, still a tropical storm, but that one else also continuing to intensify. And I really do think Atsani, if we want to switch up gears real fast here, it is going to be tracking off here towards the northwest. And really, people up and down the mainland Japan coastline should watch this in good detail, especially by the end of this week. Depending on what the Westpac high does, or at least the high pressure area over Japan, really is going to make or break this storm system and how it does impact. This is the GFS actually for next Tuesday. Look how close it is to Tokyo. Now, this is also showing it coming off here towards the northwest, and it churns northeast before impacting. But this is still long range, and it does indicate that Tokyo could be impacted. The big thing here, though, is that when storm systems come in from the southeast towards the northwest, towards the Kanto plain, that's actually worst case scenario. So if this does continue the track on a northwesterly direction, it would put basically the worst of the storm here, vice it recurving towards the northeast like most do, and really much of mainland Japan gets impacted by the left side of the storm. This is a very rare scenario setting up if that does occur. So yeah, that's something we're definitely going to continue to watch, and it potentially could be impacting people out here across much of mainland Japan. But for now, a lot of theories here, a lot of discussion, and that's the whole point of this video update. Really, no one at this point is being directly impacted by these storm systems, so we're going to continue to keep you posted. They further develop and how they continue to interact with the atmosphere out here in the Western Pacific. But for now, that's all I have today, guys. Thanks again for watching here at westernpacificweather.com. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, as always, please post them down there in the comment box below, and stay safe out there.